how do you, I guess, kind of like teach yourself to not react to these things when they pop up? Because like you said, I would be the same with the, like when you get a response over email, it's like, wow, that's the worst. I've had that. I did like early in my SDR days, I messed up on custom variables, and I sent an email that said like a high first name or whatever, or like company, like something, just a rookie mistake. And then the person responded, and as it turned out, that person had been like cataloging any mistake I'd ever made to them over, because I prospected them a few times, and they wrote back and they were like, just so you know, you did this, but before that you did this. And they same thing, like copied all of their colleagues and were like, we all talk about how you're like, you're terrible at prospecting and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God. And it's so hard not to just, I don't know, either like, slam the lid of the laptop shut and never talk to them again, or not, I don't know, just kind of let it eat you up. So how do you teach yourself to be like, okay, stop, let me have a think, let me realize what's going on here. And then instead of reacting, go for the antidote and then do that thing instead.
No, I love the example you gave. And it's funny because there's also the buyer perspective, because these emotions, they're not just for sales, right? They're general emotions like in life that you're going to feel on a daily basis. But I think that ironically, the anger part is she may have been feeling anger from like a buyer perspective, like, why doesn't she care about me? Why isn't she customer centric, etc. But I think the most popular post I did this year on LinkedIn was about that, where people are always complaining about this type of stuff on LinkedIn about, oh, this salesperson's terrible. And I said, I just received an email like you said, it said hi first name instead of hi Michael. Instead of going crazy, I just sent a message back saying, hey, sorry, I think you made a mistake. Maybe you want to change it for when you message other people, right? Which funnily enough, she did. But the tone of what she did, she was like, this is a disgrace what you're doing, copying her colleagues, rather than saying, hey, I think you're making some mistakes. Like, this is what you should change, right? So there's a guy called Kyle Coleman who I recommend following on LinkedIn. And he basically tries to respond to all SDRs because, like me, is passionate about outbound and just give them feedback. And then we create like a better world essentially. But going to your question of what's the antidote, I think that comes on to the to the next one, which is agitation and anxiety. So I think in the situation you talked about, you may feel anxious, right? As well as angry. You may be like, I'm not good at sales because this person's told me this information, and maybe like sales isn't for me. So what I recommend doing in those situations is try to calm yourself. So calm is the antidote to that. But again, how do you get calm, you may say? So there's many different forms of this. So the funny thing is, when we do this selling with less ego, I always ask sales reps for their feedback. Like, what do you think the antidote is? And what we recommend is just taking yourself out of the situation for like 10 minutes, right? So the most common thing is like meditating, or meditation is this word that I think is quite scary to some people. So I just say breathe for 10 minutes, focus on your breath, breathe in and out, go away from your computer, go away from your laptop. But the other thing you can do is you can go for a walk, you can exercise, you can call a friend. Just take yourself away from whatever situation is making you anxious, which in your case would have been that woman who is very rude to you. And then suddenly it's not such a big deal. You just focused on something else, right? So that's what I'd recommend for those situations. Next one we have is lethargy, which is essentially laziness. So there's a lot of different examples of this in sales. Again, it may be because you're not doing that well. So you're at the start of your sales career. You may be 2 months in, you're not getting results, but sales takes time. I think the average ramp up for an SDR is like 4 months. For an account executive is 6 months. But you may feel, oh, I'm not getting results, so I can't be bothered with this anymore. Or it may be you've been doing really well recently, right? You hit your target with like 10 days to go. So you're like, oh, I don't need to do anything, but why not like beat your target, get even more commission, do even better for your company. So what's the antidote to kind of laziness or lethargy? For me, it's inspiration. And what inspires me in sales is actually just meeting new people, right? So the quote I look at is, everyone you will ever meet knows something you don't. So that's why I like sales. I've built amazing relationships with people over the years. So I'm having that, laziness or lethargy feeling. I think, oh, I've met all these great people over the years who've like helped me, not just in sales, but in life generally. So, I don't turn up to this call That could be like an incredible person that, I'm going to miss out on a conversation with. So I think we're down to the last two now. So doubt. Again, this can be tied into, a lot of these are interrelated. So this can be tied into anxiety, agitation. This could also be tied into fear. So you may not be hitting your targets, right? You may have had a bad quarter. The last quarter was good, but for some reason, this is not a good quarter. Starting to doubt yourself. Is sales for me? Like, you've got low self-esteem. And then the thing I always think about, and again, this goes back to the fear one, is think about a time where you did do well. If you're an experienced sales rep, if you were smashing it in Q1 and it's now Q3 and you're not doing well, think about, what was I doing well in Q1, right? And, go back to your manager, go to your coach, go to your colleagues. If there's colleagues that are doing really well, instead of doubting yourself, try to think about how you can be better. And then that comes from belief, right? Thinking about believing in yourself from thinking about a time where you were successful. However, there may be new sales reps out there, right, who are saying, well, I'm 2 months in my job. I've never got meetings. I've never been successful on calls. Then again, reach out to a colleague who's done well, because you may think this is impossible. I can't do this. But if you speak to colleagues, they're going to give you that belief that you can do it. It's just, you need to change your approach somehow. And then the last one is pride, right? So this is, I think, quite an interesting one. And I think this goes a little bit back to what you were talking about at the start of the conversation with regards to, sleazy salespeople back in the day, kind of strong arming people into meetings, into sales. And I think often salespeople are scared to ask for feedback. So pride is something that's seen as, it's often seen as a positive thing. Like, you say, oh, I'm proud of you to your family member or a friend. It can actually be quite a destructive thing where, again, say you're new in sales, you want to ask a question to the head of IT because you're selling like an IT product and you think he would know. And you're like, oh, he's super busy. I don't want to annoy him. That's pride, right? Because you're worried you're going to disturb this person. You don't want to cold call because it's interrupting their day. Again, that's pride. So pride can actually be like a really damaging thing. So again, it's like the humility of being, okay, there's loads of things I don't know. I'm going to ask, if I'm selling a data science product, I'm going to ask the head of data science, or I'm going to ask my chief revenue officer. I'm going to ask the top performing sales rep, and not thinking I'm disturbing them, just thinking, hey, I don't know certain things and I need to get information. That really comes down to humility, which is such a key thing in sales. And however good you are, and I always say this, however good a sales call is, whether that's a cold call or a demo, it can always be improved. So if you're using any type of like call recording software, a great way of being humble is like just sharing your calls with as many people as possible in the organization and just getting feedback. Your coach can give you feedback, but then also your like colleagues can give you feedback. We've seen really good results with companies where colleagues are like listening to each other's calls because they're on the front line. So yeah, I recommend being humble and just always trying to get feedback on like everything you're doing. So yeah, I've just chucked a lot of information at you there, Sarah. So look forward to hearing your thoughts on it.